everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm at the James K. Polk Historic Home Site in a town called Pineville, which is just south of Charlotte. It's also in Mecklenburg County. We came here last month when I was doing videos about the 27 men who signed the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence, and I wanted then to find the gravesite of Ezra Alexander. But I didn't do my research before I came, and the cemetery was locked and the museum was closed. So I'm excited today to go see and learn a little bit more. I can't say that James K. Polk really stands out in my mind as somebody I remember from history class being like a super interesting president. And believe it or not, I've actually never ever been here before. Born and raised, lived here all my life. I've never been to this historic site before. So I'm excited to see where his house was. The original building, of course, is long gone. And learn more about President James K. Polk and see whatever this museum has to offer. And then, of course, I want to go back and visit the cemetery since it's now unlocked and say hello to Ezra Alexander one more time. I hope you're excited. I love this kind of video. I love history, and I can't wait to take you along with me.
I filmed a 20-second clip of the sign as you enter the park, and I asked ChatGPT to tell me about President James K. Polk in 20 seconds, and this is what he said. James K. Polk was the 11th U.S. president from 1845 to 1849, known for expanding the nation through the Mexican-American War, securing the Oregon Territory, and fulfilling manifest destiny. He served one term and kept all his major campaign promises. This looks like it's going to be another one of the trading path historical markers that I've mentioned we have all over Charlotte. They commemorate a significant Native American trade route, also known as the Great Trading Path, that connected the Chesapeake Bay region with the indigenous communities in the Carolinas and Georgia. And we actually used a lot of these trading paths when we were laying down our roads as Charlotte was first being created and designed. All right, here we go. James K. Polk, President of the United States. But I have something really exciting, and I want to start off this video by talking about this. Do you remember when we came here to find the grave of Ezra Alexander? Well, here is his headstone. The docent told me that they were able to find it, and this is all that's left of it, but they were able to piece it back together. I don't think you can read right there. You can see Alexander. It's probably said right there. We see that S? That was probably sacred to the memory. And then here is the Alexander. That might have been his wife. Does that say Mary, maybe? I can't read much more on that top part, but then down here, 1800, 1811, age 60 years, age 70 years. And then there was some text down here. So unfortunately, we don't know what all that it said, but I am just so glad to know that he is buried here. I was afraid that I might have messed up because if you look online, it does say that Ezra Alexander
could have been buried in a plot that got moved to make room for 485. He could have been buried in a Presbyterian church. I believe it's called Sharon Presbyterian Church. And it also mentions that he could have been buried here in the Polk family cemetery. So I'm excited to know he has to be here. Okay, sorry, I got interrupted, but I'm back. I'm just so happy to know that they have his headstone. There is some debate. If you look right here, you can see E.R.A. Alexander. So that's probably Ezra Alexander, and I will defend that to the death. But the docent told me it's possible it could belong to an Eleazar Alexander. But, I mean, why would you abbreviate Eleazar? You had plenty of room on this headstone. You died before your wife, so you could have taken up some of her side of the rock if you had to. I'm going to say this is Ezra Alexander, and it looks pretty much in keeping with all the other headstones that we've seen this month. It looks pretty much like them, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if it is his. This is so fun. 7 children, and he was James K. Polk's great uncle. All right, let's talk about James. This side of the museum is going to talk about Mecklenburg County leading up to the year 1800. James K. Polk was born in 1795. Painting, okay. Ooh, that's the Hezekiah Alexander house, isn't it? Okay, old houses in Mecklenburg, logs were readily available, and that's why we don't have many of them left, because they all burned down. But I think that one, is that Latta Plantation? I can't tell if that's Latta. It might be Latta. And that's the Hezekiah Alexander house. I recognize the cornerstone, so that's for sure what that is. Here's a log home that hadn't burned down. I wish I knew for sure what home that is. Oh, just so you know, photography is encouraged. You want to take a look at some furniture from way back then? And then here's our cover. Here we go. Mecklenburg County, Catawba. The original inhabitants of Mecklenburg were the Catawba Indians, and they were on the side of the American patriots in the Revolutionary War. A lot of them fought with us against the English because they were really trying to kind of adapt and integrate with the European settlers. The Cherokees were a different story. They were usually, I don't think the Cherokee were on our side. I think they were more on the British side. Samuel and Jane Polk was a wedding gift in 1794. Okay, so Revolutionary War is done. Sam received 150 acres from his father. Oh, hi, can you read that? Jane. Sam became a man of influence. He was a militia captain and a major, and he served as a justice of the peace. It seems like that was a pretty common profession back then. How cool. Okay. Oh, farming equipment. I apologize if there's anybody who really wants me to zoom in and read all of these. I'll be happy to, but what is this? Oh, other Polks. Look at this. Thomas Polk. James K. Polks. I used this photo in my video that I did about Thomas Polk months ago. I'm talking in like October of last year when I was going through the cemeteries, and somebody told me that was not a photo of Thomas Polk, that it was somebody else. So I guess they were wrong. Sacred to the memory of Colonel Ezekiel Polk. I'm blanking. I don't remember who Ezekiel Polk was. Samuel Polk. Jane Knox, his mother. The coat of arms. Ooh, he's handsome. Lieutenant William H. Polk, who served under Thomas Sumter in the American Revolutionary War. And then here's William H. Polk. I wish we had a picture or one of Thomas Polk a little bit better, you know, like later in life. That'd be really cool. Spinning and weaving. Beautiful spinning wheel. A baby cradle. Cotton
cotton saw, what? Cotton saw gin, used to separate the seed from cotton boll fibers. Oh, look at this. The Nathaniel Currier print of James K. Polk. Can you read? Wow, look at this clock. And there he is. Look at that glass drawer pull. That reminds me of the glass doorknobs, and I really like those. Look at that Grand Erie Canal, 1825. A silk vest worn by Samuel F. Patterson, a beaver fur top hat, and a linen pleated shirt. How did that survive all these years, especially being natural fibers? Oh, the Temperance Society membership roll. Look at that handwriting. People were just so classy. I don't recognize any of those names. Temperance. Ooh, what's this? These are ribbons. Temperance Society ribbons. Wow. Enslaved Polks on this site. The Book of Martyrs, the persecutions in Scotland. All right, politics leading to Polk's presidency. In 1824, presidential election was complicated and controversial. Andrew Jackson. Oh, see, I'm learning. I didn't know that. Huh. Clay is sewing Jackson's mouth shut to keep him from making accusations. Huh. The incumbent president is less than honest. This is interesting. I did not know any of this. King Andrew the First. Hey, you want to hear what they had to say? Let's hit it. Let's do it. Oh, he looks so unhappy in that photo. I'm enjoying listening to this music. We're just gonna stand here, okay?
Wish I could get that royalty free for all of my mech deck videos. Oh, Andrew Jackson. It seems like no matter what state I go to, he keeps coming up causing problems. Okay. So Clay lost to incumbent Jackson, and then Jackson did not seek re-election for his third term, but Van Buren won. Okay, presidential campaign tokens, 1832. Oh wow, used during it. Look how shiny and spiffy that looks. Martin Van Buren's. I'm sorry about the glare. Maybe I can't film that. That's really cool. And then Polk gets elected. Hail to the chief. He was. The James K. Polk Masonic Lodge. Look at them. That's so crazy. Okay, so they enjoyed a busy life. Needed repairs. Good for Sarah, fixing it up. There's some of the fabric that she used. And here's the dishes that they used. Wow, can you believe all this stuff is here? Oh wait. That might be a reproduction. Oh well. This is a newspaper article talking about the fall of the Alamo. And this is a new map of Texas, Oregon, and California. Manifest destiny. Oh boy. President Polk was determined to acquire California. He offered to buy it, but Mexico refused to sell it. A skirmish between American and Mexican troops on the disputed border of the new state of Texas led to war in May of 1846. The Mexicans fought bravely, but America's under... Oh, there's Zachary Taylor again. Was he? Where do I know this name from? Zachary Taylor. He came up last month. Both sides suffered high casualties, and the U.S. captured Mexico City. Wow. Americans were not united in support of the Mexican War. While the war was popular in the South and West, northern states saw it as an attempt to extend slavery. The Mexican national flag, presented to Major William H. Polk. This is not the original. The original is held in the North Carolina Museum of History in Raleigh. I've got to go there. Dress hat captured by Major William H. Polk. An Aztec club medal. So cool.
500,000 square miles. Now do you know who he is? Cool. All right. We have two options, and I am making the executive call here. We can either do a guided tour at 2 p.m. where a docent will let us go into these homes and see them from the inside, or we can watch a 15-minute video about the history of James K. Polk. And I feel like I have a lot to learn about him. I kind of thought he was just, a 4-year presidency where nothing major happened, and I realized inside the museum that I am seriously wrong about that. These buildings are not original to the site, and they actually don't have anything to do with James K. Polk. But when this land became a historic site, they were dismantled from somewhere else in North Carolina and brought here to kind of show in the style of what would have been here. So since we have to choose between getting to see inside these buildings and learning more, I'm going to choose learning more. I've been inside tons and tons of buildings. I don't like that I have to make a decision. That kind of sucks. But I did get here about an hour and a half before they closed, so that's on me. Let's see what this says. Samuel and Jane started the farm in 1794, a farm they were given from Samuel's father, Ezekiel. They lived here with 5 of their 10 children, including James Knox. They had 2 enslaved women, and 2 field hands. They grew cotton and other crops before moving. Okay, so they moved away in 1806 when he was 11. So I guess James was born here and lived here until he was 11. For the area's early settlers, it was especially suitable for farm life. Okay, so it's 22 acres this site is. There were originally 150. And these reconstructed buildings are based on Governor David Swain's 1849 description of the Polk home. Okay, so I don't feel so bad not actually going inside them, since I know they're not original. I think I would really want to feel that vibe. But let's walk around and look at them, shall we? And the docent told me we are more than welcome to go into the cemetery. I just got a little emotional thinking about Ezra Alexander being buried there. I asked, they were able to salvage a few pieces of his headstone, but not the whole thing. So unfortunately, it's debated whether it's even his. I don't know. I might be ignorant here, but I feel like that definitely says Ezra, not Ezekiel, or what was the name? Something like that. But since we don't know exactly where he's buried, the DAR is working on that, getting a monument for him. And I got to talk to 2 docents here. One of them, the one I talked to first, kept referring to Ezra Alexander as a person who was very important and instrumental in the American Revolution. And I mentioned the Mech Deck, and he was very nice, but he redirected his response to whatever it was I said, where he talked about Ezra was instrumental in the American Revolution. But then I talked to a second docent, and I didn't realize that the first guy, I guess, was, kind of redirecting my beliefs about the Mech Deck. But when I talked to the second docent, and I just flat out asked her, I said, if you believe in the Mecklenburg Declaration, he was one of the signers. And she goes, oh, absolutely, I believe in the Mecklenburg Declaration. I said, are you from North Carolina? And she said, no. But she got her master's here in North Carolina. And when she was in school, and it wasn't here in Charlotte, it was somewhere in the western side of North Carolina, they believed in the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence. And I was like, absolutely, me too. Born and raised just outside of Charlotte, lived here all my life, so proud to be from North Carolina. I absolutely believe this. And she said, well, the other guy doesn't believe in it. It's like, it doesn't really matter if it existed or not. I
I go back and forth on that. Sometimes I feel like it matters supremely more than all else, and then other times I realize this is really insignificant when you think about billions of years of life on this planet, and you know, humans are just, you could, if you can even say we're at the top of the food chain, but you know what I mean, we're at the top right now, but it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of millions of years. No, it doesn't matter if it actually existed or not, but in the context of a human being born and raised in North Carolina, living now in the 21st century and affected by the ripple effect of so many decisions that were made over the last hundreds of years, I like to think it really existed. It does mean a lot to me. So, but I am not gonna sit here and argue your tooth fairy versus my Santa Claus. You know, that's not the point. But all right, so we've seen the buildings from the outside. I guess these are just, because we saw the monument when we first pulled in. That would have been where the actual home actually stood. These aren't. These are definitely not the real thing. So, got a little garden going on over here, I think. I'm so pleased to hear that the DAR is working on getting Ezra Alexander a marker. That's fantastic. So many of the graves that we visited last month did have markers. Oh, here's a pretty bee. You want to see him? That's something, isn't it? I like to just sit and watch bees doing their thing, completely not giving a crap whether or not the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence really existed. Look at them. They could not care less about our document that did or did not exist. They're just doing what they've done for billions of years, and they're not going to change as long as we look out for you little guys. We got here in appreciation of the Charlotte Herb Guild. It smells so good right here. I don't know what I'm smelling. Some herb. You know, I don't eat a lot of greens, but it sure does smell good. Some really pretty flowers. I don't know, is that what they call a lazy Susan? Or a black-eyed Susan? Or is that a daisy? I don't know what that is. Oh, there's a sign. Echinacea? Is that echinacea? I don't know what that is either. I don't know my flowers. As much as I stop and look at flowers and admire them, I don't know what they're called. I am not the go-to person for that. All right, what do we got here? Cotton on the Polk farm. All right. 1793. I can't tell you how many times this right here has kept me up at night. You ever learn something and it just takes a brain cell? 1793. Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin is one of those sentences that I can just spout when I wake up from a dead sleep in the middle of the night, because you had to memorize it for school, you know. It could remove seeds from cotton boll fibers, clean the crop faster than could be done by hand. During the 19th century, cotton was one of the country's most lucrative exports. This made it a valuable cash crop for farmers, especially in the South. Samuel Polk purchased a 40-saw cotton gin. Oh, like we saw back inside, yeah. Though the cotton gin cut back on the amount of labor needed to clean cotton, relied on the labor of enslaved people. 4 enslaved laborers lived here. Tobacco in the Piedmont. Let's see. From the 17th through the early 18th century, tobacco quality in the Carolinas was poor. This was attributed mainly to thin soil in the area. Interstate trade among Piedmont farmers was challenging, as North Carolina's main export center was located in Edenton. I don't even know where that is. Farmers ran the risk of their goods being lost, damaged, or delayed due to the challenging route to the coast, which was characterized by rocks, narrow waterways, waterfalls, and rapids. Okay, so they sent them to Virginia. The tobacco trade ban between North Carolina and Virginia was lifted. What? In 1731, the tobacco trade ban between North Carolina and Virginia was lifted. Okay. Farmers from near and far brought their goods, crops. All right. There we go. See some steps over here. See what this is. Looks like we're supposed to go up them. Oh, there's a trail. Wonder where that goes. It says it's closed. Oh, it's about the Catawba was formed a combination of indigenous groups. The Catawba Nation operates as a sovereign, constitutionally established government with its headquarters located on the old reservation along the Catawba River in Rock Hill. It's the only federally recognized tribal nation in South Carolina and one of two in North Carolina. This status was won through many decades of legal battles, of course, with the state of South Carolina and the U.S. federal government, culminating in the Settlement Act signed in 1993. The Catawba Nation released claims on land taken from them by the South Carolina government, and in return regained federal recognition along with $50 million for cultural and economic projects. 3,400 citizens living on the lands. Wow. Look at that pottery. I know they're famous for it. All right, so it's a little picnic area up here. I bet they get a lot of school field trips here, so that makes sense that we've got this. It is kind of buggy out here, guys. I'd love to know where that trail goes, but it says it's closed, and I'm going to go back in and we're going to watch this video together. Oh, they've got a flag.
They laid the blueprint with pen, paper, and a promise. Integrity is their legacy. It's also our mission. That's why New York Life is proud to bring you the American president.
Polk was a loyal and hard-working Jacksonian. He had been Speaker of the House of Representatives. He was a staunch party man, staunch Democrat, and absolutely devoted to Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was a nationalist, and he wanted to enlarge the country to the Pacific coast as fast as possible. That was really Old Hickory's agenda. And Polk was a faithful son, if you will.
As America's push west intensified, the annexation of Texas became the hot political issue of the 1844 presidential campaign. Southern leaders in Congress supported it as a way to spread slavery to the new territory. And when presidential candidate Martin Van Buren, who was a Northerner, said he would hold off making any decision on the Texas issue, it turned many Democrats against him and opened the way for James K. Polk.
The Texas question is the all-absorbing one. I have no hesitation in declaring that I am in favor of immediate annexation.
On May 10, 1844, Polk was was summoned to an emergency conference at the Tennessee estate of his 77-year-old mentor, Andrew Jackson.
After urgent solicitation, I came to this place yesterday. General Jackson speaks in terms of deep regret at the fatal error which Mr. Van Buren has committed. And he openly expresses what I assure you I never for a moment contemplated, that I would be the most available man.
Polk had no notion that he was going to be nominated for president. Polk was a strong annexationist. Jackson pushed Polk. In those days, it was not necessary to have been nominated in advance. Oh, you could be nominated on the spot on the convention floor, which is what happened to Polk.
Nicknamed Young Hickory, Polk won his party's nomination. And in the national election, where he ran largely on the issue of Texas, the 49-year-old candidate was victorious. At his inauguration, the Marine Band played Hail to the Chief for the first time. And as Polk was sworn into office, Samuel Morse tapped out the presidential oath using Morse code, making it the first live media event of its kind.
I'm fully sensible that I came into the office not only in an earlier period of life than any of my predecessors, but perhaps with less of the public confidence in advance than any of them.
Right from the start, Polk sought to balance his cabinet, offering positions to many of his leading competitors. And he attempted to be rigorously fair in his executive appointments.
I intended to be respected as President of the United States. So I decided to adhere sternly to my principles without identifying myself with any faction or clique. If we expected my administration to be successful, the whole Democratic Party had to be united.
Polk worked hard to balance special interests in Congress. Along with Northern Democrats, he supported an independent treasury. Along with Southerners, he worked for a lower tariff. And with Westerners in Congress, he advocated lower prices on government land.
Care should be taken that all the great interests of the country should derive equal advantages. The government should make no distinction on persons or classes.
Outgoing President John Tyler, in the closing weeks of his administration, had formally approved the annexation of Texas. Polk's twin goals now were obtaining Oregon and the Pacific Northwest from Britain, and acquiring the Mexican-owned Southwest all the way to California.
The Jacksonian Democrats were possessed of a strong conviction about what was called manifest destiny. They were determined to extend the country westward from the Rockies to the Pacific. This they felt to be God's will. They were executing it. It's as serious as that. A manifest destiny meant precisely that. And there was almost religious fervor about it. The Mexicans weren't going to stand in the way. Now, that does not sit well with contemporary views of national or governmental morality at the end of the 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
But it sat very well with a majority of Americans in the middle of the 19th. There were dissident voices argued for the rights of the Indians and the Mexicans who would be displaced. But regardless, the Jacksonian fervor for the Pacific coast and everything that lay between the Rockies and the coast was irresistible.
As Polk's presidency unfolded, his public stance for balance began to unravel as his natural preference for the Southwest took hold of him. Determined to use any means necessary to extend the nation's reach, Polk announced he was prepared to purchase the Southwest, or, if if necessary, take it from Mexico by force.
All agreed that if the Mexican forces committed any act of hostility, I should immediately send a message to Congress recommending a declaration of war.
When after a full year Mexican aggression failed to materialize, President Polk would wait no longer. On Saturday, May 9, 1846, he informed his cabinet he would commence hostilities himself.
I said that it was impossible I could remain silent much longer. I told them that I thought I ought to make a message of war to Congress by Tuesday next. All except the Secretary of the Navy agreed.
That same evening, word arrived that the Mexican army had attacked U.S. soldiers. Polk now had the justification he wanted for war.
The commanding general of the Mexican forces crossed the river, invaded our territory, and shed the blood of our citizens on our own soil. Congress promptly responded and granted me the means for a vigorous prosecution of war.
For a year and a half, Polk's armies bludgeoned Mexico into submission. The only war president since James Madison, Polk became consumed by the struggle, saying he would stand and fight until the last man fell in the conflict. Taking on the work of many of his cabinet members, he became the first president to remain all summer in the White House, refusing to take more than a few days of vacation.
No president who performs his duty conscientiously can have any leisure. If he entrusts the details and smaller matters to subordinates, constant errors will occur. I prefer to supervise the whole operation of government myself.
Polk ended up alienating many in Congress, but by September 1847, the war was effectively over, and the United States would soon be expanded by 1.2 million square miles.
The war with Mexico was forced upon us, but it was clear that we would, if practicable, obtain California and other portions of the Mexican territory to indemnify our claimants and to defray the expenses of the war.
Opponents in Congress stressed that these lands had been acquired by an immoral war and would lead to a crisis involving the question of slavery within them. But Polk had won the Southwest through conquest and treaty, and by direct payment to Mexico of $15 million. And to the end of his life, he considered it his greatest achievement.
The acquisition of California and New Mexico are results of greater consequence than any since the adoption of the Constitution.
He got a lot done. Harry Truman, who identified with him a good deal, used to say, Polk is a great man. He promised to do a lot and he did it all. And that really is true. Those cessions of territory and their immediate consequences brought into the center of national politics the issues that would dominate for the next decade and end in the Civil War.
By his final year in office, the president was exhausted. With the volatile issue of slavery in the new territories heating up, all Polk wanted was to turn the office over to another. He had pledged that he would serve only one term, but even if he had wished to, he could not have run again. By incessant work, by an unwillingness to delegate, and by his refusal to rest, he had destroyed his health.
They have been 4 years of incessant labor and anxiety. I am rejoiced that my political career is now closed. Henceforth, I shall be a private citizen.
But though Polk dreamed of a happy retirement in Tennessee with his wife Sarah, it was not to be. On his return journey home, he became seriously ill, and just 3 months after leaving office, the 11th president lay dying.
I have been highly honored by my fellow men and have filled the highest station on earth. I will soon go the way of all the earth. I pray God to prepare me to meet the great event.
They led by following their conscience. They championed the greater good. Humanity was their example. At New York Life, it's our very essence. That's why we're proud to bring you the American president.
All right, guys, that was the video. I feel like I learned a lot. Enjoyed that very much. I think I made the right call. But I do want to come see this cemetery, of course, and show it to you another time, one more time. I was handed a pamphlet by the docent, and it has some information about the cemetery, so I'm excited to show you what's in here. I believe she said in 2022 they attempted some LiDAR to figure out how many people were buried here. Oh, my rose is still here. Are you kidding me? My rose is still here. I cannot believe that. Oh my gosh, and this isn't locked. Well, I'm pretty sure it was locked the day we were here. I did not feel comfortable going in. She said that they thought there were, I think she said 30 or 40 people buried here. And as you can kind of see with the headstones, that's a fair number. But when they did LiDAR, it was over 100, like 130, 120, 130 something bodies are buried here. 3 different families, the Alexanders, the Polks, and I think she said the McClures, the McClungs, something like along those lines. Don't know exactly where Polk was buried. I asked where the headstone was and where we thought Polk was buried. I'm sorry, Alexander was buried, Ezra Alexander, but the docent told me they weren't 100% sure, but I just wanted to come see what this was. Okay. This monument, here lies Maria Polk. Okay, Maria Polk. This is James K. Polk, the president. This is his grandmother. That's why this has been kind of, preserved in this way. So that brings me to this pamphlet. Let's see. It's a bit kind of all over the place. Here we go. Maria Polk. Let's just start here. In 1998, the Department of Transportation relocated this cemetery from its original to its Julie, start over. In 1988, the Department of Transportation relocated this cemetery to its present location. Its original site was several miles away, and it was due to being completely destroyed when they put the new highway through, which I believe was 485. It is not illegal to not keep a cemetery after so many years. You just have to give proper notice and whatnot. However, due to the presence of Maria Polk, who was the grandmother of President James K. Polk, the Department of Transportation decided the whole cemetery was worth saving for its historical and cultural significance. They used UNC Charlotte's archaeology department to lead the cemetery relocation, and archaeologists performed disinterment and reinterment. Oh, 101. I thought he said 120 or 130. Okay, there are 101 burials. At some time, it had been looted by grave robbers. That's so sad. Okay, Maria Polk continued, but where does Maria Polk start? We've got Margaret McCleary. That's the other family. I think I said McCleary. Gardes Lafoy of Samuel McCleary. Clarissa Harlow Alexander, age 4. Virtue is not mine. You died a beautiful death. Okay, here, this is her. This is what her tombstone says. Here, unalarmed at death's last stroke, lies in this tomb Maria Polk,
a tender mother, virtuous wife, relined in every scene of life. Truly pious without parade, where want appeared she lent her aid. To heavenly courts she did repair, may those she loved all meet her there, supported by the hope of a happy death and of a glorious resurrection to eternal life. She bore a tedious and painful illness with a truly Christian fortitude. The last EXE underscore, where would that, the last EX, I don't know what that would have said. The last EXE of her feeble voice. Man, they've really cleaned this up. It looks nice. Okay. Of her feeble voice was employed in singing the 33rd hymn of the second book of DOCLR Wall's composition, in which, anticipating the joys of the blessed society above, she exchanged the earthly for the heavenly melody. Wow, that's a lot to say on a tombstone. Raise thee, my soul, and fly up and run. This monument, the last offering and token of respect that can be paid to the living, to continue her memory on in the minds of her surviving friends, and to perpetuate to posterity the name and character of such an excellent woman, is erected by the grateful and faithful partner of her life and affections. Oh, the little squiggly, I see. Her mild and gentle spirit was dismissed from its earthly mansion on the 29th day of November, 1791, in the 45th year of her life, and left an affection It says they can't read the next word. I just wanted to see where it is, but I don't see it. And left an affection, family in particular. Oh, yeah. What does that say? And left an Allecyon? I don't know. While the deer dusts the leaves behind, sleeps in the bosom sacred tomb. Soft be her bed, her slumbers kind. This is the longest tombstone I think I've ever seen inscribed. And all her dreams of joy to come. Farewell, bright soul, a short farewell, till we meet again above in the sweet groves where pleasures dwell and the tree of life bears fruit. That is the most fully inscribed tombstone I think I have ever seen in my life. Good job, Maria. That is so cool. You know, normally you see a tombstone like this and it'll say sacred to the memory of, and then a few sentences, maybe a short little quote or something from the Bible, and then most of the slab is empty. But my goodness, this whole slab is inscribed on. That is cool. This down here is talking about how they are not sure if that says sacred to the memory of, it says E.R.A. Alexander and probably Mary Alexander, which could totally be Ezra and Mary, right? It says here he died the 6th of July, 1800, aged 60 years. That would make him the Mekdek signer, right? But she said that there's some confusion that this could actually be the headstone for this guy. I don't know. I wish I did. I'm just happy to know that the DAR is going to put a monument up for Ezra Alexander. I believe he's here. I have absolutely no extra information to add that I could possibly prove it. Here's Ezekiel Polk. But I just feel it in my bones, you know? Just like I feel that the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence was a real thing. I just feel it. James Alexander, who died October 15th, 1804, aged 30. I feel like this cemetery has had a cleanup recently. I went to a cemetery cleanup. I didn't vlog it. I felt like I was doing a good community service and I didn't want to film it. But I did a cemetery cleanup at Old Settlers, and we need to take a tour through there and show you. That cemetery is sparkling right now. It looks so nice. So many people turned out, we were able to clean almost every single headstone. Eleazar Alexander. Well, hang on. That's this person. Now I'm confused. I am like 100% sure that the docent told me
this person is who they thought was on Ezra Alexander's tombstone, but here it is. I am so confused now. I am so confused. I feel like this shouldn't even be up for debate. I'm gonna have to, maybe I misunderstood what she said. I must have misunderstood what she said, because that doesn't make any sense at all. I think the mystery is gonna continue. I thought we were coming here today to see Ezra Alexander's tomb, and I just got more questions. Sacred to the memory of Samuel McCleary, who died December 1798 at 66 years of age. Wow. Here lies the body of Margaret McCleary, who departed this life aged, I think it says 11 years. Oh. Some of them are just marked with rocks. Wow. Yeah, now I have more questions. If this was relocated, they would have known how many bodies they brought. So was the LiDAR done at the original location before the bodies were moved? And were all the bodies moved? And if so, why weren't 100 and how many did I say? 101 rocks put up? I only have more questions. But I have no questions about James K. Polk. I think we've completely covered James K. Polk, right? Nobody has any more questions about James K. Polk. But Ezra Alexander, you just keep presenting me with more questions. Let's look at this. Maybe this will answer my questions. As one of Mecklenburg County's early family graveyards, the Polk Family Cemetery has an importance to the history of the area. The cemetery is the final resting place for James K. Polk's grandmother, Maria Polk. Original cemetery. But here's the original site. And it was moved in 1988. Bigum. So he made the tombstones. He made quite a few of them that are in Old Settlers. I know because one of the people who showed up to work who didn't have a partner, and I didn't have a partner either, Michael didn't go with me that day, she is descended from him. It's a very unique style headstone, and his carvings are really cool. Okay, everybody, if you're still here, thank you so much for watching. I know I got really chatty there at the end, but I'm just a little bit confused about the cemetery part. I'm really glad to know that Ezra Alexander is most likely accounted for. That makes me feel good, because when I did his video last month, I was a little afraid that I might be in the wrong location, and I know it's not 100% certain that he is here. But I was afraid I could be in the wrong location, or he might be somewhere and I was completely missing out on it. And this is great to know that we know where he is, and the DAR is working on getting him the monument that he deserves. That is exciting to me. That was worth coming here just for that. But learning about James K. Polk was also interesting. I didn't realize how much that I did not know about our 11th president of the United States. And he's from Mecklenburg County, so we can claim him as one of our own. I will see you guys another day in another adventure. Bye, everybody.